Andrea was 37 years old when he realized that his days had become interchangeable. Each morning felt like a repeat of the last, a rushed breakfast, emails before coffee, a commute that blurred into monotony, and nights where his mind buzzed with unfinished tasks while his body lay restless in bed. He wasn't unhappy, not exactly. He had a stable job, friends, and a decent apartment. But there was an emptiness, a sense that he was living on autopilot rather than truly alive. The turning point wasn't dramatic. There was no crisis, no sudden loss, no catastrophe. Instead, one quiet morning, Andrea sat at the edge of his bed, staring at the sunlight spilling through the blinds. He thought, if I keep living like this, will anything ever change? The question itself was enough to shake him awake. That was when he decided, without fanfare, without telling anyone, that he would begin again. He didn't know it yet, but what lay ahead was a journey built from 30 habits, 30 simple, ordinary practices that would, piece by piece, transform the shape of his days and ultimately the course of his life. 1. Waking up 30 minutes earlier. Andrea's first experiment was deceptively small. Instead of waking at his usual 7:30, he set his alarm for 7. At first it felt cruel, like robbing himself of precious rest. But after the first week, he noticed something miraculous. That half hour belonged to him, alone. The streets outside were quiet, the phone silent, the inbox empty. For 30 minutes each morning, Andrea was free from the demands of the world. It was his own secret pocket of time. Second reading. 10 pages a day. With his newfound pocket of time, Andrea picked up a book that had been gathering dust on his shelf. He promised himself just 10 pages a day. 10 pages, no excuses. Soon those 10 pages turned into 50, then entire chapters on weekends. He read novels that made him weep, biographies that humbled him, and essays that sharpened his thoughts. Each page was a window into another life, and Andrea felt as if he were borrowing wisdom from centuries past. 3. Doing small tasks immediately. One evening, while scrolling through a book of quotes, Andrea read a line that struck him. If it takes less than 2 minutes, do it now. He decided to try it, washing a dish instead of leaving it in the sink, answering a quick email before it piled up, hanging his coat instead of tossing it over the chair. Small actions, but their impact was surprising. His space became tidier, his mind lighter. Procrastination, he realized, was a thief that disguised itself as laziness. 4. Planning, the night before. Andrea began ending his evenings with a simple ritual, writing down 3 tasks for the next day. Not a sprawling to-do list, but 3 meaningful actions. When morning came, he already knew where to place his energy. No more drifting aimlessly between distractions. The act of planning gave him a quiet sense of control, as if he were steering his ship rather than being tossed by the tide. 5. Learning to say no. It wasn't easy. Andrea had always been agreeable, quick to say yes to favors, projects, and invitations, but too many yeses had left him stretched thin, resentful, and exhausted. Slowly he learned to refuse, politely but firmly. Each no created space for what mattered most. Saying no, Andrea realized, was less about rejection and more about self-respect. 6. Keeping a journal. Andrea bought a simple notebook and began writing a few lines each evening. At first he felt silly, as if talking to himself on paper, but soon the notebook became a companion. He recorded frustrations, small victories, fleeting ideas. The journal didn't judge, didn't interrupt. It reflected his own voice back at him, clearer than he'd ever heard it. 7. cutting digital distractions. Andrea noticed how often he reached for his phone, not from need but from habit. Social media, endless scrolling, meaningless clicks. He deleted a few apps, turned off notifications, and set boundaries. No phone during meals, no screen the first hour after waking. The silence was uncomfortable at first, but eventually, the absence of constant noise gave birth to something Andrea hadn't felt in years: focus. 8. Drinking water. First thing, a simple glass of water each morning. It seemed trivial, but Andrea quickly realized how much better he felt: clearer, lighter, more awake. That single act became a reminder that small things matter. The body, like the mind, thrives on care. 9. Moving daily. Andrea didn't join a gym or commit to marathons. Instead, he promised to move every day. A brisk walk, a set of stretches, a few push-ups. Some days it was 10 minutes, others an hour-long hike. The point wasn't intensity, but consistency. His body grew stronger, and with it, his confidence. 10. Meditating for 10 minutes. Meditation was the hardest habit. Sitting still felt unnatural. His thoughts darted like restless birds, and 10 minutes seemed like eternity. But he persisted. Breath by breath, Andrea learned to be present. Meditation didn't erase problems, but it softened them, like waves smoothing stones. 11th. Practicing gratitude. Each night, Andrea listed 3 things he was grateful for. Some days it was simple: the taste of coffee, a laugh with a friend, a good song. Other days, deeper: the resilience of his body, the love of his parents, the privilege of choice. Gratitude turned ordinary days into extraordinary ones. 12th. Keeping his space tidy. Andrea began tidying not out of obligation, but out of care. A clean desk, a made bed, an uncluttered kitchen. Order in his environment created order in his mind. He discovered that clarity outside often mirrored clarity inside. 13. Limiting sugar. Andrea had never considered himself indulgent, but once he started noticing, sugar was everywhere. He reduced it: less soda, fewer sweets. The result was subtle but steady. No afternoon crashes, no foggy mornings. His energy became a river rather than a roller coaster. 14. Seeking fresh air daily. Andrea started stepping outside every day. Sometimes it was a walk around the block, other times a trip to the park. Breathing fresh air, feeling the sun or the rain, it grounded him. Nature reminded him that the world was vast, alive, and endlessly renewing. 15. Prioritizing sleep. 7 hours. That was the new rule. Andrea stopped sacrificing sleep for late-night television or meaningless browsing. Rest became sacred. With proper sleep, mornings felt less like a battle and more like a beginning. 16th. Weekly goals. Every Sunday, Andrea wrote down 3 goals for the week: small, achievable, but intentional. The practice gave structure to his days and prevented weeks from slipping by unnoticed. Each goal achieved was a step forward, however small. 17. Learning something new every day. Andrea became a student of life again: a new word in French, a short documentary on history, a cooking trick. Knowledge didn't have to be monumental. Even tiny sparks added light to his mind. 18. Eating slowly. For years, Andrea had eaten like a man perpetually late. Now he slowed down. He tasted his food, chewed deliberately, savored flavors. Eating slowly became a meditation, a ritual of gratitude for nourishment. 19. Listening to music. Mindfully. Music had once been background noise. Now Andrea listened with full attention. He sat, closed his eyes, and let the music envelop him. Every note, Every lyric became an experience. Music wasn't just entertainment, it was nourishment for the soul. 20. Taking active breaks. Andrea stopped chaining himself to his desk for hours. Each hour, he stood, stretched, walked. These breaks refreshed him like tiny resets. Productivity rose not despite the pauses, but because of them. 21st. Reducing multitasking. Andrea abandoned the illusion of multitasking. Instead, he did one thing at a time, fully, intentionally. The result was not just better work, but calmer living. 22. Calling loved ones weekly. Andrea realized how distant he had grown from friends and family. Messages and likes weren't enough, so each week he called someone. Real voices, real laughter, real connection. Relationships blossomed again. 23. Helping without expectation. Andrea began helping others with no strings attached. A small favor, a listening ear, a word of encouragement. He discovered that giving without expectation filled him with joy more lasting than any reward. 24. Tracking expenses. Andrea started recording every euro he spent. Not obsessively, but attentively. Money, he realized, was energy. Tracking it gave him awareness, and awareness gave him freedom. 25th. Digital detox. Once a month. One full day each month, Andrea put his phone away. No screens, no internet. At first it was disorienting, but soon it felt liberating. Without the constant pull of notifications, Andrea rediscovered books, walks, silence. 26. Practicing deep breathing. When stress pressed on his chest, Andrea paused. He inhaled deeply, exhaled slowly, again and again. Breathing reminded him that calm was never far away. It lived in his lungs, waiting. 27th. Visualizing the future. Andrea began visualizing the life he wanted. He pictured himself healthier, calmer, more fulfilled. Visualization wasn't about daydreaming, it was about aligning daily actions with long-term vision. Each habit became a brick in that imagined future. 28th. Celebrating small wins. Andrea used to rush from task to task, never pausing. Now he celebrated small victories, finishing a report, sticking to a workout, saying no to junk food. Each celebration was fuel, proof that progress was real. 29. Walking daily. Andrea made walking a ritual, 20 minutes minimum, no destination required. Walking cleared his head, grounded his body, and reminded him of the joy in simple movement. 30. Writing a done list. Finally, Andrea added one last ritual, a done list. Each day, he wrote not what he needed to do, but what he had already done. It was a mirror reflecting progress, a gentle reminder that he was moving forward even when it didn't feel like it. The mosaic of change. Andrea's transformation didn't arrive in a single thunderbolt. It came in whispers, in small shifts, in 30 humble habits. Each habit alone was a drop of water. Together, they carved a river through the stone of his old life. He was still Andrea, imperfect, human, learning, but he was no longer drifting. He was awake. He was alive. And as he looked back on his journey, Andrea understood. Happiness wasn't hidden in grand achievements or distant goals. It was here, now, in the rhythm of daily practice, in the mosaic of 30 habits that had reshaped his world.